The Trail of Tears, Indian Removal Policy by Andrew Jackson. In 1829, Jackson delivered his first presidential message to Congress concerning the Native Americans. Jackson asserted his plan for the Native American populations of the United States, a policy that he would endorse until the conclusion of his presidency. He declared that the only solution to resolving conflicts between Native Americans and the United States was through the forced removal of Native Americans from their traditional homelands to the territories west of the Mississippi. Jackson justified the removal method by arguing that white civilization would destroy the property and reserves that were essential to Native American life. To save the Native Americans, they must be removed from both American society and potential American settlement. Jackson's vision for the Native Americans became a reality with the passing of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The act followed through with Jackson's view by stripping away 100 million acres of eastern lands, owned by various Native American groups, for white settlement. The Native Americans previously occupying these areas were effectively banished from their homelands. Although the Indian removal policy was met with some opposition, in the form of petitions from Christian women, they were essentially ignored by the Jackson administration. The Native American response to the Indian Removal Acts altered depending on the tribes and locations involved. In 1832, Black Hawk, leader of Sauk and Fox Indians, unsuccessfully opposed the removal of his peoples. Fighting for their territories in western Illinois, Black Hawk's tribe was captured, leaving over 400 of his own people slaughtered in the exchange. The Cherokee inhabiting Georgia also resisted, but in a different manner. Considered one of the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee opted for a program of assimilation into American culture. The Cherokees embraced American culture by accepting written law, even going so far as to model their own Constitution of 1827 on the Constitution of the United States. The Cherokee integrated socially as well by adopting many common American features, including housing and dress styles, as well as taking up cotton agriculture. Unfortunately for the Cherokee, Georgia announced its intention to seize all Cherokee property in 1831. However, the Cherokees' past program of assimilation offered them some protections from encroachment. They used their knowledge of American legal systems to take their case to the Supreme Court. The resulting case of Worcester v. Georgia upheld the territorial rights of the Cherokee. In his landmark decision, Chief Justice John Marshall asserted that the Cherokee were a distinctive community occupying its own territory in which the laws of Georgia can have no force. Although the Supreme Court's decision appeared to be a landmark victory for the Cherokees and perhaps other Native American groups, their hopes quickly faded when Andrew Jackson chose to ignore the court's decision and urged the Cherokee west. Angered and annoyed with the Supreme Court's and Marshall's meddling in Indian affairs, Jackson declared that John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. The legal victories of the Cherokee meant little to Jackson's presidential prerogative. By 1838, a small and illegitimate group within the Cherokee signed a treaty that sold the entirety of the Cherokee's lands to Georgia. Chief John Ross of the Cherokee petitioned Congress to dismiss the illegal treaty. However, his pleas were unsuccessful. By 1838, most of the Cherokee had still refused to disperse, so the federal government sent in troops to physically remove them. Nudged forward by the rifles of federal troops, the Cherokees began a 1,200-mile migration west towards modern-day Oklahoma. Along the way, over 4,000 Cherokee men, women, and children lost their lives due to hardships endured en route. The arduous and traumatic experience would later be aptly termed the Trail of Tears. While the tragic tale of the Cherokee continues to offer a somber but interesting look into an often neglected perspective of American history, their story also sheds some light onto some greater American historical themes. The first is the continued legacy of American exclusionist policies towards the Native Americans that existed before the Jacksonian era. Although Jackson was an essential component to the Indian removal policies, he was also continuing an American tradition of expansionism that ran in conflict with the Native American territorial sovereignty. His presidency was not the first to adopt such a policy towards the Native Americans. Secondly, the Trail of Tears also highlights the development of political powers within the United States government. Jackson's rejection of Chief Justice Marshall's verdicts depicts the increased presidential powers that were expanded during the Jacksonian era. By ignoring the powers of the Supreme Court, Jackson was intentionally or unintentionally broadening the powers of the presidential office. Lastly, the removal of the Cherokee signified the sectional and racial divisions of the United States. Although the Cherokee had taken on and assimilated American forms of dress, language, and culture, they were still excluded from American society. Rights then, and even citizenship, were drawn not by shared religious, economic, and social values, but by racial divides.